Protests calling for the fall of the Iranian clerical establishment have swept Iran since Mahsa Amini was killed. She was a 22-year-old Iranian Kurdish woman charged with disobeying the strict morality laws. So supporters around the world, they're also taking to public spaces to push for change. Now, we first met Shervin Azar when he was 12 years old. He'd just written a book about moving here from Iran. Well, today, he's in university, and he's taking part in these protests. Shervin, hello there, and thank you for coming back in.
Thank you for having me here.
I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. How are you? What's been going through your mind since this has all been happening in Iran?
So honestly, it is pretty disheartening to see what's happening in Iran. My people have suffered for the last 43 years under this cruel dictatorship. And just to bring it back onto what ignited these protests, this is Mahsa Amini, the shirt I'm wearing. It was her first day in Tehran. She moved from Kurdistan to Tehran just to see her aunt. And then she was brutally thrown into a van by the morality police because she had exposed hair. And yeah, she died hours later due to God knows what, head trauma. Who knows what happened to her in the van. And one thing I do want to emphasize is that a lot of Westerners think this is only on hijab policies. That's an aspect of it. There is multiple aspects. One of the three aspects is the hijab. The second one is corruption. This government does not leave room in its budget for the people. It steals money from the people, and it also eats away at the budget funding terrorist organizations around the Middle East. And people just are literally starving because all the money is going towards terrorism and their own pockets. So they have nothing to eat, and we have an insane inflation rate right now. The third reason is tyranny. This government is extremely tyrannical. This government is nothing we've ever seen before in history, in my opinion. It uses religion to justify its actions and will beat you and kill you if you dare to speak up, if you dare to raise your voice, even the smallest critique. So right now, Mahsa and a lot of other girls that have died in the protests died because they wanted to get their voices heard for Mahsa. They were my age, most of them. Their median age is around 16 to 17. So imagine if I went outside right now in Vancouver, as you saw in the protests, and shaved my head or whatever, and which I did, and I got shut down by the police for speaking against a murder of an innocent woman. That's absolutely brutal.
So why is it so important for you now to go out, to protest, to make your voice heard, and to join others in that chorus?
In my opinion, Western countries are diplomatizing with Iran when they shouldn't be. This is a terrorist regime. And when, I'll call out Prime Minister Trudeau right now, when Prime Minister Trudeau hesitates to call it a terrorist regime, he is indirectly supporting this regime. Now, let's not forget, 2 years ago, this terrorist organization, the Islamic Republic of Iran, shut down PS 752, a passenger flight which was carrying around 180 people, half of which were Canadian, 170 people, sorry. And Prime Minister Trudeau, I don't know why the Liberal government is refusing to call them a terrorist organization, because this is a terrorist organization and people are dying in the streets of Iran trying to protest against this regime. And one other thing I will say is that by declaring them a terrorist organization, it will be extremely good for us because this regime really cares about how other countries view it, especially in the UN. For example, right now it's in the UN Women's Rights Council when it shouldn't be. So yeah, by shaming them, we can help the people of Iran.
According to the Prime Minister, the Canadian government is taking some steps. There have been sanctions imposed. There have been prohibitions on certain people from Iran entering this country. Why isn't that enough for you?
In my opinion, sanctions are good, but they don't help. As we've seen with Russia, there have been numerous sanctions on Russia, but, you know, confiscation, in my opinion, they should not. Their families are here right now. The IRGC's families, they have houses here, they have cars here, they have everything here, they have yachts here. Those should be confiscated. And you can only do that if they are a terrorist organization, if they're declared as such by the law. Sanctions don't really help the people of Iran.
You know, we've seen thousands of people turn out in support in protests here in Vancouver and across this region, across the country as well. How How risky is it? How dangerous is it potentially for Iranian Canadians to protest here? Are they putting family and friends in jeopardy back home?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So pretty much just for being on this interview right now, I can't return to Iran under the cruel dictatorship that it has right now. A lot of people in these protests cover up their faces. They can't hide from this regime, even in a Western democracy, because they have spies here, they have espionage, they have everything. They do not want opposition at all because they're a fascist Islamic republic. They thrive off of stealing money, causing terrorism, and killing innocent civilians, especially in my country.
Now, in light of this, again, these protests around the world, increasing pressure on governments, how optimistic are you that there will actually be change in Iran as a result?
Dictatorships don't last forever. When you look at history, whatever tyrants you see, they will be pulled down. What we're witnessing right now in Iran, the burning of hijabs, people coming out to protest, even though they might die by bullets, people my age. This is a cultural revolution, and you always need a cultural revolution before an actual revolution. And I believe this regime's end is at a near, in my opinion, which is very optimistic, but I do believe it is at an end.
How important is it for you to have friends, to have people that understand the issue here in Vancouver and to join you out there in those protests?
I feel like it's extremely, how would you call it? Like
It's heartening?
It's disheartening, yeah. I think it's very heartening to see people, Canadians especially, that care about my issues as an immigrant. And yeah, it just makes me feel more at home here than there, because there they kill me for being a protester. Here I can protest about the issues in Iran that I would get killed for, and I can see my fellow countrymen here support me as well.
Shervin, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Take good care, okay?
Will do.